Football is back, and we are here to continue doing the NFL record predictions for every single NFL team. Today we will finish off all the teams, every single team with the NFC South division. That's the only one we have left. Yep. So NFC South, we're going to start off with the New Orleans Saints. So week 1, they have a date against the Tennessee Titans, and I'm going to have them win that game. Then they beat the Carolina Panthers. Then they lose to the Green Bay Packers. They win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They lose to the New England Patriots. They lose to the Houston Texans. They win against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They lose to the Indianapolis Colts. They win against the Chicago Bears. They lose to the Minnesota Vikings. Then they go on a bye week. They come off the bye week and lose to the Atlanta Falcons. Then they win against the Detroit Lions. They win against the Carolina Panthers. They win against the New York Giants. They lose to the LA Rams. Then they lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then they win against the Atlanta Falcons, which will give them a 9-8 record for the New Orleans Saints. Next team will be the Atlanta Falcons. So week 1, they have a matchup against the Carolina Panthers, and I'm going to have them win that game. Then they beat on the Green Bay Packers. They lose to the Detroit Lions. They lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars in London. Then they win against the Houston Texans. They win against the Washington Commanders. They win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They lose to the Tennessee Titans. They win against the Minnesota Vikings. Then they lose to the Arizona Cardinals. Then they go on a bye week. They come off the bye week and beat the New Orleans Saints. They lose to the New York Jets. They win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They lose to the Carolina Panthers, but then they win against the Indianapolis Colts. They lose to the Chicago Bears, and then they lose to the New Orleans Saints, which will give them a 9-8 record as well. So there you guys have it for the Atlanta Falcons. Next team will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So week 1, they have a matchup in Minnesota, and I'm going to have them lose that game to the Minnesota Vikings. Then they win against the Chicago Bears. They lose to the Philadelphia Eagles. Then they lose to the New Orleans Saints. Then they go on a bye week. They come off the bye week and beat the Detroit Lions. They lose to the Atlanta Falcons. They lose to the Buffalo Bills. Then they lose to the Houston Texans. But then they win against the Tennessee Titans. Then they lose to the San Francisco 49ers. Then they lose to the Indianapolis Colts. They lose to the Carolina Panthers. And then they lose to the Atlanta Falcons. They lose to the Green Bay Packers. Then they lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then they win against the New Orleans Saints. And then they win against the Carolina Panthers, which will give them a 5-12 record for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right. And the final team we have here is the Carolina Panthers. Yep. No. That's it. We finished. We finished every NFL division. Let's go through the Carolina Panthers division, though. So week 1, they lose to the Atlanta Falcons. Then they win against the New Orleans Saints. They lose to the New Orleans Saints. Then they lose to the Seattle Seahawks. They win against the Minnesota Vikings. They lose to the Detroit Lions. Then they lose to the Miami Dolphins. Then they go on a bye week. They come off the bye week and beat the Houston Texans. Then they lose to the Indianapolis Colts. They lose to the Chicago Bears. They lose to the Dallas Cowboys. Then they lose to the Tennessee Titans. They beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They lose to the New Orleans Saints. Then they win against the Atlanta Falcons. They lose to the Green Bay Packers. They win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then they lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which will give them a 5-12 record. And that ends all the teams. I predicted every single team's schedule. I will be back tomorrow for the NFL playoffs prediction and my Super Bowl champion prediction. Be tuned to see that. And yeah, so recap for the NFC South. In first place, I have the New Orleans Saints with a 9-8 record. Tied with them is the Atlanta Falcons with a 9-8 record. I don't know how that's gonna affect playoffs. I think New Orleans Saints got it, though. I think they got it because, look, they have 4 and the Atlanta Falcons have 9. So, yeah, I think they're in and Atlanta Falcons are out. Then in third place, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with a 5-12 record. And, yeah, same record, 5-12 for the Carolina Panthers. So, yes, tune in tomorrow to see my NFL playoffs prediction and Super Bowl champion. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.